Okay, hello everybody. This is Lacy Frazer here with wholesoulschool and Foundation's January Transformation Talk episode. I am super excited to be here this month, the first month of 2020, with Erik Arnebold. And Erik and I met. Actually, maybe I'll let him tell you how we met. But before I get into all that and Erik and I get going, I just want to remind our listeners that this year, wholesoulschool and Foundation is following the 12 Insights. And so each month we will be featuring one of James Redfield's 12 Insights, and we will use that as our theme for the month and center most of our conversations around that theme. So Marie and I did do a fireside chat on the first insight, which is about spiritual awakening and synchronicity, and we had a very lively chat around that topic, and it's a very exciting time to be alive and to be on the planet. And so hopefully today, I think Erik and I will talk a little bit about synchronicity and spiritual awakening as well. But first, why don't I go ahead and let you introduce yourself, Erik? I'm so happy that you're here with me today.
Glad to be here.
So tell me and our listeners a little bit about you and how you and I came to meet.
Well, we met in federal prison. I always enjoy saying that. But yeah, I met you when you started your classes, and I was in my probably last year before I got out, the tail end of a 4.5-year sentence. So I was looking to, absorb as much information as I could before I was ejected into the real world. So I guess.
And when you say absorb as much information as you could, do you mean about like self-awareness and your own personal growth? Because you don't usually hear that from people behind bars per se.
Absolutely. The things that you were teaching was something that I was familiar with the concepts from another time in my life from years back, and I was at a point in my life where I was looking to grow, and it came at a perfect time for me. When I saw what you were teaching and offering, it was serendipitous, and it was exactly what I needed. I had actually lost my memory 4 years earlier when I sobered up and was thrown in federal prison, and so it was 4 years of growth, starting from building block number 1.
So do you mean you literally had lost your memory?
Yes. I was using so much drugs before I got arrested for so long that when I did get arrested, they took everything off the menu for me, and I had lost so much. I mean, I barely knew who I was. I knew that I was in big trouble, and but yeah, it was the kind of memory loss that you would come back easily if you were, in a normal environment around your life, your old stuff and your friends and your, stuff that would remind you of who you were and what kind of life you lived and what kind of music you liked and what kind of clothes you wore. But I was not around any of that stuff. I was in a white cell with people I didn't know, and I didn't know what kind of music I listened to. I didn't know. I had to have my mom print out a thing of my Facebook friends so I could remember their names.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. So
do you have memory of? I mean, do you have memory of the circumstances surrounding your offense, your crime?
Oh yeah.
And you remember being arrested and all of that?
Absolutely. I remember. It's not like a big blackout. It's kind of like a recall. It's like it's like I knew who I was. I don't know. It's very hard.
Yeah,
I just needed a reminder.
Yeah.
I needed to be in my old environment and just be reminded of everything. But I spent 13 months going to court in a cell, and there was no reminder. So when I actually got in front of the federal judge, he told me to put my hand on the Bible and state my my name and my age. I got my age wrong, you know, and so it was kind of bad. And so, you know, like I said, I had my mom sending me pictures of the artworks I had created in the past, and I had friends sending me lists of the music I liked, and
How long so I'm just assuming, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming that your memory was kind of going before you ever went to prison. I mean, if you had been using drugs for a long period of time, and it sounds like you're talking about really frying a lot of the brain cells, right?
Yeah.
And
and
so it took coming to prison to really get cleaned up. Is that fair to say?
absolutely, and it took a long time. It wasn't just sober up and then I was ready to go. It was 5 months of laying in that cell trying to recoup myself before I could get up and decide that I needed to get back on my feet. You know, that was 5 months of just, I was detoxing from heroin, from benzodiazepines, Xanax, Klonopin, Adderall. I was going to the doctors and getting prescriptions to all of this stuff on top of all the illegal drug use that I was. So it was a cornucopia of narcotics for me for well over a decade. And, you know, my memory, there's no telling when my memory started going, but I think it was just, you know, neuropaths that I had not fired, or I don't know what it is that made my memory disappear. But it didn't go away for good. I just needed to be reminded of everything. But it took 4.5 years of prison before I got back to my home and was around my stuff, where stuff started clicking for me. You know, I was like, oh, you know, just aha moments. So those 4.5 years were very blank and empty, and I was very insecure, you know. So it was rough, but I was definitely...
But it also feels like that at the same time, prison in a way saved your life.
Absolutely, it did. It did. I was very close to the end, probably.
Yeah. And so when you and I met, you were at the very tail end of your sentence?
Yes. So I was sentenced to 5.5 years, and I ended up serving 4.5. And so the beginning of your class, I got out right around the same time that you retired. So I don't know. Remember when your class started? It was just a couple months before that.
Yeah, it was probably like January of 17, I think.
Okay, yeah. So it's a year class. So yeah, it was the last year of my sentence, and you know, it means a lot to me now because I wanted those 4.5 years to be filled with learning and growing. I mean, that's time that you have to reflect on yourself. And I knew that, or I hoped that I wouldn't have time to do it when I got out because I'd be so busy living life. And so I really wanted to learn skills. I wanted to grow. I wanted to reflect. And it's not on top of remembering as well, but it's not the best environment to do that. I mean, it's a good opportunity, but the environment isn't.
Well, not everybody goes into it with that attitude. I don't know if
Right.
you can say that when you first came to prison that you wanted to take that time to learn and reflect and grow. Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
Yes, yes.
You knew that as you were going in at some level.
Yeah. Well, I was at a point in my life before I got arrested where I wanted something else, but I was so I had been desperately trying to stop the drug use before. So I was ready to, let's just say, grow up. I wanted to, but it physically was not possible with all the addictions I had.
Yeah,
So
you needed a universal intervention like that.
absolutely, I did.
I mean, that really speaks to that. Like, because, we talk about how our soul and our spirit, it knows better, right? We have a higher self that knows better.
Yeah.
And it was probably calling out. I mean, you had a conscious awareness that you were calling out
Yeah.
for change, for help,
Yeah.
for a fork in the road where you could make a different choice.
Yes, absolutely.
But your human self wasn't strong enough.
No. And I don't think it took a cell I needed to be locked in a cell and dried out and hung out to dry until it was gone, because no stint in rehab probably would have helped me. I mean, I needed serious drying out, and it took a long time. And so, yeah, when the opportunity arrived to do all this, I knew that I wanted to. I knew what it was. It was an opportunity, but it took a long time to really come to terms with that. I had a lot of health issues to get over, and there's a lot of hurdles along the way.
But it sounds like when you did find your way to the class, and if we talk about synchronicity and we talk about how things line up, to have the opportunity to take this particular program, right, which is kind of based in spirituality and based in self-awareness and based in self-growth, and to do that 12 months from your release.
Right, it was perfect timing.
It was perfect timing.
Yeah. And it was crucial to me. It's what I needed. While I was locked up, I did take the time to get certified as a personal trainer. And so I started doing push-ups in my cell about 5 months after I first got locked up. And I just wanted I had to get physically back in shape. And then, so I did that, and there was lots of reading and learning. And then towards the end, it was time for me to grow spiritually, and you gave me that stepping stone, and so it was everything worked out perfectly for me. It was perfect amount of time, and so it touches me to realize, to look back and reflect how it all really worked out for me, and
how it all fell into place at the right time.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's important to mention that during that final year, you had some pretty serious back problems.
Right.
And you weren't able to even come to the group as often as everybody else did.
Right.
But you would read the books, right?
Yep.
And you would see the films. And you often came in to meditate in the area, in the psychology area, right?
Yeah, that was definitely interesting. Laying on the floor and meditating with people stepping over me every now and then, but we take what we can.
Well, and you had some pretty amazing experiences doing that.
I did. I had never really experienced meditation the way I experienced it on the floor in your office there. I thought I had always understood meditation, but it wasn't until I had a guided meditation that you provided me with a CD to listen to that really brought me down to a different brain wave, what meditation is all about. Mm-hmm. And I was actually able to reprogram some things in my life while I was in that brain wave, which is another thing I learned from some of the books you gave to me. And those are still things that are more things that have been happening positively in my life since then. Things that I wanted to change about my life. I made the intention in those meditations, and there's still the things that I was looking for are coming true. And
can you talk a little bit about maybe one or two of those things that you remember visioning and meditating on while you were in that state that have come true?
Oh, yeah. A big one was I did a lot of reflecting about my father died when I was 1, so that was something that has been, overshadowed my life, my entire life. And I had a stepfather who's been around almost, he's been in the picture since I was 5, but growing up, I never. It was something I always fought with him, and it was hard for me to accept these relationships. It was hard for me. I didn't want to understand them. When you're a kid growing up, you get angry, and it is what it is. You believe your emotions. You believe your thoughts. That's and I. So one of the things I meditated on was that I would fix these relationships, to fix this relationship with my stepfather, and that has definitely happened. It means a lot to me, but it's.
Take your time. It's that's a big, I can feel the energy behind what you're talking about,
Yeah.
and to picture you laying on that floor, listening to those CDs in pain with your back, and really going into your life and starting to reprogram those thought patterns, and especially around that relationship. And it's amazing that you now have a good relationship with him.
Absolutely. It's the visualizations that I had then is exactly what happened when I got out. And I hadn't really thought about that too much, but it's totally come true. And relationships are what they are, and they reflect the effort you put in them. So it's.
But you're even talking about, if you don't mind me saying, it feels like you're even talking about a deeper rehearsal in your mind.
Yeah.
Of the relationship, and you rehearsed in your mind while you were incarcerated what you wanted that relationship with your stepfather to be.
Yeah.
And so when you got out, what you're saying is that when you got out, you have been able to play that out.
Yes.
And restore.
Yes.
A relationship with him.
Yes. I wanted to accept him into the family. I wanted him to be a part of my life. I was always so pissed off, pardon my language, about my original father's death, and I rejected him, and I didn't want to understand him, and I wanted to understand him now. We're getting older, and in my visualizations, I visualized us, just embracing each other, and me inviting him into my life, and it brought tears to my eyes then, and it brings tears to my eyes now.
Yeah. Wow.
I guess it's just been an issue in my life for 40 years.
Yeah.
So that's just one of the things that has changed. It's.
That is beautiful, and I really appreciate you sharing.
Yeah.
Because I think we all have the power to reprogram these things if we know how, and it helps us energetically and emotionally and cognitively when we can. Joe Dispenza is one of the people who talks about this, and if we can,
Amazing book.
Yeah, he's incredible. But he talks about when you are in that that brainwave state, and you vision something that you either want or desire or want to shift or whatever while you're in that state. It really, you can reprogram it it is so.
Right.
And that's kind of what you're saying.
Yes, and it absolutely. And it may sound simple, and I guess it is kind of simple, but it's also very complex.
Yes. Absolutely is, because we're human beings, and our mind wants to interject and make everything complex.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, the other thing when I think about what you've shared with me about your life and about since you've gotten out, and we talk about synchronicity, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about your job that you found and the place that you're living in, and just sort of how these life, it feels to me that so many things have come into your life and provided more and more opportunity for you to, I don't know, would you say start over or just live a different way, having been reminded of who you really are as a spiritual being having a human experience? I don't want to put words in.
No, absolutely. That's it for sure. I've had amazing opportunities. I mean, everything has come together for me since I've been out. Well, I was still injured. I injured myself, as you mentioned earlier, when I was in prison, and I couldn't sit down. I pinched a nerve in my back, and so the last several months I spent in my bed. When I got out, I thought I was going home, but they actually stuck me in a halfway house for 4 months, which they told me they weren't going to do, and that aggravated. I couldn't work because of this nerve, and I also couldn't lay down because of the nerve. So I would get up in this halfway house and I would stand next to the bed all day until it was time to go to bed, and then I would lay down for the night, and then I would do it again the next day. So I spent 4 months just next to this bunk, standing. It was horrible, but it aggravated the situation. My nerve got so much worse. So then when I was ready to get out and hit the ground running, you
weren't running anywhere.
Yeah, I wasn't going anywhere. And but it was a beautiful opportunity for me to get closer to my family, which is what I wanted to begin with. So
isn't it interesting just how the universe works?
It is.
And I just want to point out again to our listeners, like when I hear your story and I hear the drug addict pleading for a different life, but not knowing how to find that path, and here comes prison, which to most might seem like a death sentence, and it saves your life, and then you get out and you have this pinched nerve that requires you to lay flat on your back, 23 of 24 hours a day, after you've been praying to get closer to your family.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, you got to be careful what you wish for. No, and that's the beauty of synchronicity and watching the signs and just accepting what life gives you as part of your plan. It's never what you expect it to be.
Right.
But it may be what you need, and it may be what you want even, but it doesn't always come to you wrapped in a nice little gift.
Yes,
with a bow on top. So,
amen to that.
I mean, in retrospect, it's beautiful. At the time, and I'm still going through this nerve issue. At the time, I wanted to go out and get a job and get back to life, and but I had to stay home. I couldn't wear pants at this point, and I was at my parents. They looked out for me. They gave me a place to sleep. They let me recuperate there, and it was beautiful. We worked on our relationships that needed working on for 40 years, and so it was beautiful. And I was under their care under their roof for I guess a year or so, and then I finally figured out, and I healed a little bit to where I could wear pants again, and I started looking for work, and I was given an amazing opportunity. I got a great job at an HVAC company, and let's see what else. I was given an opportunity to get my own place.
Well, yeah, and we're actually sitting in this place now, which is amazing, and it has a downstairs, which is you've turned into an art studio, which is just incredible. So you have, not only do you have a job, but you have a really awesome space to create.
And that was another thing I had visualized when I was in prison was I just want a nice place, a decent place with another space to create art and maybe work on like a wood shop or just somewhere I could use my hands. And it's just, here it is.
Here it is.
I couldn't have I've been blessed.
Well, people say, like, I couldn't have dreamt anything better. And the point is that you did dream it.
I did dream it.
You dreamt it into existence.
Yes. And it's been a hard road. It really has. But I have maintained that it's just part of my path, and there are things to learn along the way, and I have trusted that. And thank God I've trusted. I don't know how many times I've wanted to just beat my head against the wall, or just
or give up,
and just say, "Gosh, it's so hard," and it was. But persistence and trust can really be a beautiful thing, and if you know to do that, it's possible. It is possible to.
Anything is possible.
Yeah, and so things have really, really worked out well for me. I'm still dealing with this nerve issue, but all the things that I have, this part of me keeps asking why do I have this nerve issue? Why me? There's so many other things I want to do with my life. And I think about the things that are happening because of this nerve, the positive things. I mean, it's easy to think of the negative things because those are first and foremost in it, when you're upset about something. But, I think about where has this nerve steered me in my life? And, it's all the stuff that I've needed. I've needed to be able to focus. I've needed time to chill, direct myself in a certain direction. If I was, the old Eric wanted to do 150 miles an hour in this direction, then that direction, and, this nerve is a pain in the butt, literally, but it has been...
It sounds like it's anchored you.
It has.
In a way that's required you to be anchored to really go within.
Yeah. Yep. Keep me on my path.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank God somebody's doing that.
Well, let's talk for a minute just about your art. I've had the blessing of seeing a lot of your work, and it's just pretty phenomenal. And I did not know this part of you on the inside. You were not, as far as I knew, you were not painting.
No.
And so when I came to visit to see all this amazing artwork on the wall, and I'm thinking, wow, you got some artist friends or something, and and it's you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, really amazing stuff. And so I'm curious as to the role art has played in your life, and where you would like to see it go.
Art has always been a hobby, something that was kind of it has kind of been in the background because art is like a puzzle to me. It's an outlet for sure, but it's also a puzzle in my head, like trying to figure out how to create scenarios with this pigments. It's very technical. It's difficult. So it has provided me with a thought process that keeps my mind busy.
So when you say that, I just want to follow up on that because we were talking about this earlier. In a way, it keeps you focused on different aspects of the world that other people might not pay attention to.
Right.
Is that
absolutely?
Do you think that's a way to say it?
Yeah, that is.
Because you were sort of talking about how you look at everything so differently.
Right, just the way the light would hit something, the shadows, the depth. How many different colors of blue are there in the sky? Simple things. Because I'm trying to figure that out, it enriches my life. It brings the simple things to the surface. It's just been something to think about for me.
And you've never taken a class. You're not. No. It's not like you're a studied student, if that's a word.
No, and that's been part of the challenge for me, is because it's constantly trying to figure this out. And but yeah, I've been figuring it out over the years. It's been about 20 years since I picked up my first paintbrush, and I was more of an expressive painter without giving anything any thought when I first started painting. And then, when I got locked up, I've started giving all areas in my life a deeper thought and trying to figure out exactly how everything works. So naturally, painting was one of those things. So now I'm just being less expressive with my art and working more on the technical parts and becoming a better artist, so that down the road I can combine the two, the expression and the skill, to maybe create something I'd like to be successful at, And so that's another area of my life that has just come together, because I was contacted recently by a group in Texas that wants to represent me, and they want to license my art and take me places with it and see.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I actually just received the contract for that about 3 days ago. So that's just another thing that has been working out for me. So it's another excitement. I've been blessed, but all of these blessings, it's a lot of work too. I've got a lot of work to still do to make sure that these don't go to waste.
What do you mean by that? Do you mean
well
what doesn't go to waste?
Well, like the art, I may have people that are interested in buying it, but I'm nowhere near where I want to be with it. I've got a lot of growth to do.
Yeah.
As far, and not just being an artist, but growth as a human.
Yeah.
And growth as...
So you want to, it sounds like, continue to expand.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In every way.
Right. And that's where, the synchronicity, they're all just signs on the side of the road, that you just pay attention to make sure that you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Or on the wrong track.
Right.
But, sometimes the wrong track can take you to the right places, just a roundabout way.
Well, I would say, we talked a lot in group about how your outer environment is a reflection of your inner environment. And because of the vibration and energy and how all that works. And if that's the case, Erik, I think you're in a pretty good space inside of yourself when you look at what you've been able to manifest and walk into in your life and what you've created since you've left prison. But not only that, the growth and the opportunity that you took advantage of in prison, despite being nearly brain dead, if you don't mind me saying that, from the drugs, because it sounds like you walked into prison pretty gone in a lot of ways.
I was.
But there was something bigger inside of you that was pulling you forward.
Absolutely.
And there was a desire inside of you to shift and to change. And so you, if I may be so bold to kind of summarize a little bit of this, but it feels like you sort of walked in not knowing but open at some higher level, because your human self was pretty gone.
Yeah, absolutely. My whole life I've had a spiritual element to it, but I've ignored it for many years. I mean, it's always been there. And I think it was ready to come out. I think it was ready. It was time for me to. I had destroyed my physical self, so there was nothing left but my but my spirit and my soul, and so I let it take over.
Wow. Well, you opened this up. I just am very touched. You opened this up by saying, basically, I just needed to be reminded of who I am. And you literally needed to be reminded of who you were because of your memory.
Yeah.
But really what you're saying is your human self needed to be reminded that you're a spiritual being having a human experience.
Absolutely.
And that your spirit was allowed to really sort of take over at some point and say, let's move through this.
Let's
keep going.
Absolutely.
Let's grow. Let's learn.
Yeah.
Because what's amazing is I don't hear in you anger and resentment and a sense of being a victim and all of these things, right?
No, there's no time for that anymore. I did plenty of that in the years past, and it brings you nothing except heartache and pain. We have a choice. We can take what we're given and turn it into gold, or we can cry about it, and it will definitely be crap.
Yes. Well said. That's well said.
So it's been a ride.
Yeah. But, life is a ride.
Yeah.
But it certainly feels like you're on the other side of something, and how amazing to be at a point in your life and at still pretty young, even though you feel like you've probably lived 120 years.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of years ahead of you,
Yeah.
and you've got your artwork and a job and a beautiful place to live and a great town and a wonderful family.
Great relationships.
Yeah,
that's another thing I've really enjoyed is just cultivating relationships.
From a healthy perspective.
Right, and enjoying other people. Like, I was always so self-centered when I was, everything was about me, and I love not it being about me. I love enjoying what other people have to offer. It makes life rich,
Yeah.
So, and it has not been easy, but it's all been worth it, It has. So I think just about every aspect. I think has really it's come together for me, and I'm grateful, and that's something else I do is I try to think of everything I'm my gratitude. It's very important.
Very important. Yeah, we talked about that a lot.
So that's something I like to focus on when life is really getting me down. I just have to step aside and think about everything I'm grateful for, and it seems to realign things.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I have no doubt, and I'm gonna keep you in my prayers with respect to this pinched nerve in your back, and I'm gonna ask everybody to to set the intention that this heals itself, or you find your way to the right healers, and as we know about energy, that when it's time, it will heal.
Right.
And so whatever lessons you are continuing to learn from it, you will learn from it until you don't need it anymore.
Right.
Right?
Right. Exactly.
And I think that's just what we have to intend.
Yeah. I guess the hurt nerve is something else to be grateful for.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Well, you've said it. That it's anchored your growth in an interesting way.
Absolutely.
So, well, Erik, I want to thank you so much for talking with me today, and I hope we can do it again.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Really.
And I feel so blessed that our paths crossed, and that you actually live right around the corner practically.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Hopefully we'll see more of each other.
Absolutely.
And just thank you for sharing your story and your journey. And thank you, everybody who is listening to Whole Soul School and Foundation in 2020, and especially Transformation Talks. And please, you can find us at www.wholesoulschoolandfoundation.org. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter, and wherever you can find a podcast, we should be there. Please consider a donation to Whole Soul School and Foundation. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and welcome any kind of donation that helps us kind of keep the lights on and affords us the time to interview people and share a lot of this really fantastic personal journey stories that enrich and liberate the soul and educate and do all the wonderful things that we are trying to do at Whole Soul. So thank you, Erik. Thank you to all our
Thank you.
listeners.
I appreciate
and
it.
Yes, and I know we'll do it again
Absolutely.
sometime. And blessings to you in 2020.
Likewise.
Okay.
Likewise.